O'Brien in Joe O'Brien.
Oh, here come Gucci.
No.
I come in hair salon and set your permanent on fire.
Don't bring Gucci into Glass Cannon Radio. Keep Gucci in the realm where Gucci belongs.
He's a fan favorite character. People in the Twitch chat were requesting Gucci. I give the fans what they want, Joe.
Fan service. Something I think we're going to talk a little bit about today, actually.
And be sure to check out, coming up in one exact month, the Glass Cannon Radio Gucci special. The entire 2 hours will be hosted by Gucci. So look forward to that. By the way, his name is spelled Goochie. Why would I spell it like the fashion brand? Why are you guys spelling it like that? Use common sense.
For those that are not familiar, please get them up to speed. So this comes out of Blood of the Wild, our subscription Pathfinder 2e run through of Quest for the Frozen Flame. Where you spontaneously and on the whim created the character Gucci. What's the log line on Gucci? Who is Gucci?
The log line is, what is the worst, stupidest intro bant I could possibly open the show with?
What is the most unbearable character to host a show?
Unbearable character. It Gucci. So, Joe, speaking of guest hosts, last week we had Mary Lou. She was absolutely fabulous.
I heard wonderful things. Yes.
I mean, the show felt like it was pushed to the next level. My point is, we now know that we have an option if we need to replace one of us.
Yep. I hear you. I asked McD how it went, and he was like, dude, amazing.
Yeah.
And as the host that takes that week off, you love to hear that, but there's also that little bit of like, oh man.
I remember one time when I was working for James Corden, Bryan Cranston hosted the show because James Corden couldn't be there, and he was so amazing, and James Corden came back and we were all like, I miss Cranston.
I miss Cranston. Yeah.
I miss Cranston.
Guest hosts, I feel like, are just so wonderful. They come in with all this fresh energy, these different ideas, these different perspectives. It changes the whole dynamic of the show for a little while. It's super fun. And then they move on with their life. It's great.
Nice to have some feminine energy on the show because you and I radiate this sort of like macho alpha dog.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a male musk coming off of us
Yes.
of war and bloodshed. That Mary Lou didn't have. She has
That's exactly what I think about when I think about you. Specifically, I think about just manly traits. The most
dog.
Yes, construction work, building.
I'm a Sigma. Is that right? Am I a Sigma? Am I using that correctly?
I don't know what that word means. I just know that now my 6-year-old uses it, and I still don't know.
Am I a Sigma, or are people that are lame Sigmas? I can't remember. I don't know. Chat will get back to us.
They'll get back to us. How you doing, buddy? Are you good? I didn't see you last week. How was your week? How was your weekend?
Pretty bad diarrhea right now. Dealing with a lot of stuff family-wise. Wife's pretty mad at me sleeping on the couch.
Sorry, I asked.
Kids, I'm just kind of dealing with this other stuff, so I've just kind of been letting them live on their iPads. And I've started smoking again. So really, really, really bad right now. Everything's great. Everything's great. I'm sorry, guys. My life is a high five from Jesus Christ.
Man, your pendulum swings they're hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to get into the show today. We got a great show in store for you guys. And man, we're going to hear a lot from you all today for our little slate, and thank you to Ejnar for putting our slate of topics up on the Discord. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to start off talking about a very interesting angle to Star Wars, which is really the Star Wars. We're calling it a Star Wars curse. And it is why is it that so many of the expanded Star Wars content struggle? in our opinion, and we want to see if you have that same opinion. Which of those extended things do you love? Which do you not like? Do you think that there's a common reason why some of these things fail? We'd love to hear you weigh in.
Is it our perception that they're not good? Or okay, sorry, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
It is. There's a lot of different angles to this. A very complicated topic, and it's going to be very caller driven. So we're excited to hear you guys weigh in on that. And that's going to lead us right into talking about what is perceived right now by a lot of us as a great extended Star Wars universe product, and that's Andor. We're going to talk about we're going to dip into the second season of Andor a little bit. Couple minor early season spoilers. Look out, but we're not talking about the whole season yet. Yeah. Then we're going to talk about IP role-playing, which is this whole genre of role-playing games that have developed out of famous movie franchises and book franchises and comic franchises and stuff, before doing a new segment we're calling the GCR Brewery. This is going to be not beer-related, but is going to be where Jared and I and you live homebrew a scenario. We're going to experiment with this. I think it's going to be really fun.
For an IP property today, right?
For an IP property today, yes. And then last but not least, we're going to do a little GCN news. We're going to wrap it up with exciting news from the Glass Cannon Network, so stick around for that. All right, so first...
Do you want to hear... I used to do a joke about breweries. Do you want to know what it was?
Love your jokes, please.
This is my joke that I did on stage about breweries. I was like, the problem with the breweries is that the word brewery sounds like you're already drunk. Hey, do you want to go to the brewery?
Brewery.
Hey, a bunch of us are going to go to the brewery.
That's good.
Looks like you've already been to the brewery.
Brewery.
That's how I would end it.
That's a good bit. It's a good bit.
Check out my albums on Spotify.
Those of you that want to weigh in on all of these things we talked about, including getting your opinions in on the expanded Star Wars universe and IP role-playing and helping us build a scenario, you can do that by connecting to our Discord through the Glass Cannon Network Discord, and you can do that by going to jointhenaish.com and signing up to subscribe to the network. You can do it for free if you use code GCN30. You can get in for free.
And you guys should really sign up for Naish Vorpal tier. It's the top tier, and I do a cam girl show. If you're Naish Vorpal tier, and I show full butthole. Joe, here's why I like having you back. You laugh at stuff like that, and Mary Lou just went, yeah, okay. And often made her own joke, obviously. But
I know she's just
unfazed.
It's so funny to me. Like ever since the beginning of us working together over COVID, since the first Blade session, I've just always been a huge Jared Logan fan. I can't. Your style of humor is right up my alley, and I read plenty of negative comments online about your style, right? People are like, I don't find that funny or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get those people because anything he says makes me laugh. I can't explain it. So
people say I'm cringe. People say I'm cringe, and I say those people are Sigmas. Am I using that right?
Are we using that right? Are we using that right? Anyway, please, Jared, kick us off with your thoughts on a Star Wars curse.
Let's talk about the Star Wars curse. Is it a curse? There is a sort of common knowledge among fans of science fiction, fantasy, geek stuff that not all of the Star Wars content out there, and there is now a lot. I feel like it's quadrupled in the last 10 years. There's so much Star Wars content, and a lot of it is not very good. Now, where the drop-off occurred, and by the way, this drop-off is theoretical. If you think that there hasn't been a drop-off or that it is people's strange warped perception, please call in and let us know. But I think generally some people say the drop-off occurred after the original trilogy. That, when they got into the prequels with Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, that was a huge drop-off. Some people say that the drop-off didn't occur until the latest movie trilogy, the J.J. Abrams movie trilogy, if you will, the Kathleen Kennedy movie trilogy. Some people say it's the TV that has really weakened the brand. There are all these shows out there on Disney Plus. I mean, there are a lot of them now. And I think a lot of them, at least among critics, get very lukewarm reviews. So what we want to talk about today is there really a Star Wars curse? Is a lot of the Star Wars content weak sauce? And why? Why is it so hard to make a Star Wars show?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. Like, that's what we kind of want to drill down on. Like, we're not trying to go property by property, idea by idea, show by show, and pick it apart and say why it sucks. Right. We're kind of looking for overarching challenges that creators seem to be facing with going to this iconic trilogy and making expanded content out of it and having it fall short most of the time, but not all of the time, in my opinion.
Why
is
it hard to make a Star Wars show?
Yeah.
Because they certainly have plenty of money, right?
Do you have any initial thoughts, Jared, on specifically that question? Why is it hard to make a Star Wars show?
Well, I have a couple thoughts. First of all, the first one I wrote down is, it's for kids, or is it?
Yeah, it's a tricky middle line. There's
a really weird middle line. So George Lucas has gone on record multiple times in multiple interviews saying that he sees Star Wars as being for 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. But the audience that was around for those original trilogy of films, and even the audience that was around for the prequels, have aged. They've become much older. They are adults now. And sometimes I think those people see the stuff that's coming out now, which is still in the Lucas vein, geared somewhat toward 12-year-olds. And they go, this is stupid. This isn't what I want. This isn't as serious as I remember that original trilogy being. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because they're looking at a property intended for kids with adult eyes. Now, there are exceptions to this. Obviously, Andor is a show that is intended for adults. I mean, in those first 3 episodes, there is an attempted rape. Spoiler alert. So that is a very adult show. And I think that's why so many people I'm around are like, Andor is the good show out of the Star Wars shows. They're really just adults saying, I like the adult version of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And then they look back at that original trilogy, you're saying, and they just like that out of nostalgia. Like, they wouldn't like that as much if it was new today.
They don't realize that they're seeing it through a certain perspective or a certain kind of rose-colored glasses. You know, there's a lot not to like in the original trilogy if you're looking for it. I mean, the thing about the original trilogy that I think is significant is that it changed movies. There really weren't these sort of high-concept, sci-fi, fantasy, superhero-ish, like, big genre movies coming out at the time that Star Wars came out. What is that, 74?
77, I think.
77, sorry, 77. So, there really isn't like that kind of film coming out at the time, and it really changed, a trilogy of films where you need to see all of them. It really changed movies, and so that's such a huge watershed. I think people are hit by that milestone in a very special way, and then can't really look back with anything other than awe and love.
Yeah, I wonder because I felt very similarly in that the whole, and by the way, Paula joined us here on Twitch and said nothing is as good as the original trilogy, quote unquote. That's Paula weighing in. Paula, get on Discord if you want to join us and talk about it. It'd be great to hear from you. But hop on Discord, we'll get you on. But there's that aspect of like, well, I really like Andor, and that's because it's geared towards adult themes. I don't know. I think that it's kind of crazy to think that, that some of these movies, particularly, like, to me, the worst of the worst is Attack of the Clones. That to me is the worst of the worst.
I'm one of those who do not like the prequels. I think that they're pretty bad.
And I do feel like that's not geared towards kids. I mean, I don't think it's geared towards kids or towards
the
12-year-olds.
prequels.
Yeah,
the prequels The prequels are absolutely geared toward kids.
Well, then I think it's a failure because there's some, like, I mean, the the way that it's portrayed, I think, is pretty. I feel like they're trying to do adult stuff in a terrible way. Not in the first movie. I think the first movie fits that
everything
MO,
in the first movie, of course, has little Anakin in the pod racing and stuff. I mean, very clearly geared toward kids. Jar Jar's in the first movie. The second movie, I don't remember as well. To me, it's mostly forgettable. But what I do remember is that all three of those movies are amazingly toyetic. You know the word toyetic? No. Everything can become a toy.
Yes.
Everything you see could be a toy. And I remember in the second or third movie, there's this part where they have to sneak up on some Imperials or some bad guys, and they ride these like big colorful lizards that keep like making sounds, and I'm like, why are you riding those? Or like Darth Sidious with the robot guy with the 4 arms. That's a toy, not a character. Like
right.
There's really no it's so over the top and huge and silly.
Well, what is the I guess what is the purpose of how do we narrow that down into a reason why it's hard to make good Star Wars stuff? Like as an umbrella statement, is it because everything has to be marketable to tweens, like
or younger? I mean, really younger. Right?
And I mean, really younger.
They want the toys to go to like 6-year-olds if they can,
Right. But but if you had a better, if you made, so let's take the Clone Wars TV show, for example, which I did not see a lot of, but I liked it when I saw it.
People
I remember,
love that. That's like one of the things alongside Andor that I hear a lot of people going, this is good.
Right. And that's obviously for kids in its own way, but it's like, but it was good writing, good characters, good story, kind of compiled on each other. I don't know. For me, you look at it with rose-colored glasses because you saw it in a formative time in your life, and now nothing can live up to that. I don't like leaning on that argument. I feel like it's too much of an excuse for failure that doesn't really make sense. These things are kind of...
But Joe, it's definitely a component of it.
It is definitely a component of it.
People become adults, and then they're like, why can't I be a child again? And you just can't. I think that's a huge part of people's hatred and disgruntlement with Star Wars.
Is it not possible to make a movie, like looking at the most recent 3, 7, 8, and 9, is it not possible to make a movie with an evil, sort of Empire-themed kind of stuff and space dog fighting and stuff like that, and have it not be for adults? Or I mean, have it be for adults? Is that just not really once you get into space dog fights and rebellions and empire? What I'm saying is the major themes to me are not child themes. They are adult themes. You should be able to create in this space the way Andor did, with very serious themes that address these tropes of storytelling that are very adult tropes.
So yeah, and I think to some extent the new trilogy, 7, 8, and 9, does do that to some extent. I mean, you see Han Solo get stabbed, don't you? You see him die. So it does bring in those adult themes. It is supposed to, but it's still, I think, supposed to be kind of like for 12 to 14-year-olds, where they're ready for those adult themes. But the film, I think that there's still someone with their finger on the family button saying, this is for mom, dad, brother, and sister to all go see together. And that's always going to kind of hold you back a little bit from a complexity of storytelling. And, of course, the reason that it is...
But it shouldn't hold you back from quality of character. It shouldn't. And I think that is where you see a lot of things falling short. There's just not... people don't connect, even 12-year-olds, that much with a given character.
Well, maybe they do. We're not 12. I don't know how 12-year-olds feel.
That's why I want to hear some callers.
The Force Awakens.
Does anybody have kids that are 14, that are 18, that love the 7, 8, and 9? I'd be curious to. Is there
anybody out there listening who loves the prequels? I would love to hear that. And by the way, Joe, I think that there are other reasons why Star Wars movies aren't working or Star Wars properties aren't working.
Oh, me too.
But I'm going to leave it for the the callers to kind of
take
weigh
a couple
in.
calls and then we can keep going as we go. Let's go to Charles Fro. Charles Fro wanted to hop up there and get on the record. What's up, Charles?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing, buddy?
All right. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
I think you said a lot of the sort of people's opinions and when they saw them, and I think those are very true. One thing that I believe is also accurate is due to, I believe, what Lucasfilm has done with what they call the volume, their stagecraft stage. It is made it, and McD kind of called me out in Discord chat, relatively easy to film these incredibly looking sci-fi masterpieces. But because of that, they're pumping it out so much and so often that I think that's led to what's now, instead of, I didn't like this movie because I didn't feel like it was very good. Now we're seeing just an inevitable decrease in quality because so much is getting put out there. So that's.
Do you think it's a decrease in quality on the side of the people making it, or do you think it's just all of us having franchise fatigue, where we're like, I can't keep track of all this Star Wars?
Both. But there are show makers that have the passion in it that there's still stuff that comes out that is either widely appreciated like Andor or selectively appreciated due to it being the target audience, but it's still good. I think Mandalorian belongs in that discussion.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Charles. What do you think of The Mandalorian?
I really like The Mandalorian. Didn't care for Book of Boba Fett.
Okay.
Right.
And,
I've heard that a lot. There's a lot of fans of The Mandalorian, and people sort of universally dislike Book of Boba Fett. I wasn't that into The Mandalorian. When you show me Baby Yoda, I don't go, aw, I go.
It has also been a great connection point for my youngest, has really appreciated it. So,
and how old is your youngest?
He's the target audience. He's 7 and introduced to Star Wars through all the Lego Star Wars stuff, and is gateway drug to seeing all the other stuff.
Awesome. Oh, thanks for the call, Charles. A really good
Charles.
start. Speaking of the Lego stuff, so I was just in, oh my gosh, I can't remember what city it was. I feel like it was Seattle, maybe. But a wonderful member of the Naish handed me as a gift at the show, at the VIP meet and greet, a copy of the Lego Star Wars Nintendo video game that came out in 2023. And said, this is a great game to play with your kids, like a co-op game to play with your kids. I just started it this past weekend, just finally fired it up, got it out, because I watched the first 3 with my kids, 4, 5, and 6, like a month or 2 ago. And it landed. My kids are 6 and 8. It landed. They really liked it. They were into it. And now we're in the process of watching them again, which is great. And they wanted to play this video game, so I fired it up. And the video game is terrific. I mean, it is easy, to make right now we're just playing like episode 4 or 5, and it is easy to kind of like work within that scope. Like if you just have to recreate Hoth, I mean, all the ideas are already there. They're already like set up for you. You just kind of like make little scenarios in it. And we'll talk about that a little bit in IP role playing later, right? Where you've been given all of the foundational material to work with. And then you can kind of get creative within a box that's really fun. The game does a spectacular job of making new and interesting complex scenarios. Like there's kind of new combats and new things you have to do during the battle for Hoth, like in the base and stuff, and like getting the Millennium Falcon ready, and like things that aren't really covered in the film as much. And it's really, really fun.
Man, I've always wanted to get the Millennium Falcon ready.
Dude,
when I dreamed of playing Star Wars, I thought, is there any way I could load cargo onto the Millennium Falcon? This is why I sometimes dislike video games. Although I have heard that Lego Star Wars is one of the best Star Wars video games, which is surprising, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just awesome. And a big part of it is definitely gonna be the licensing of the music, because hearing the music over and over while you're playing, it's so epic, it's so amazing. And that original music obviously does a lot to carry the original franchise too. A big fan of the original franchise has joined us on Discord. Paula Deming is here. Paula, step up to the stage. Your mic is muted, Paula. Just unmute that. We should hear
I'm
you.
unmuted now.
There we go.
There you go. I got
Hi,
you.
Paula. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I don't know how articulate I can be about this, but you were like, I thought you were like, have your feelings hurt if I didn't raise my hand.
I would.
I was here.
I would.
So-
Good read.
That's right.
I'm glad you're here. We're all glad you're here. All right. So the three original movies are the best. Nothing comes close, in your opinion.
Nothing comes close, and you can't even get the best version of them anymore because George Lucas came in and ruined them. So I grew up watching the VHS box set that you could get.
Me too.
At some point, I guess in the 90s is when that would have been available. And that's how I fell in love with Star Wars. And then you can't even see that version anymore because here's the problem. Here's where I think the problem really is. I think that when someone who has created something that perhaps was maybe just lightning in a bottle or a collaboration that really worked, and then it gets attributed to one person who then becomes in our minds this like auteur, right? And suddenly they can do no wrong. I feel like that is why so much of the new Star Wars stuff doesn't work as well, because I think too much credit is given to George Lucas himself, and then he's allowed to kind of do whatever he wants, and then that branches off into a lot of like cynical capitalism focused like, well, let's just make money. Let's just use all these characters. Let's not tell news stories. Let's use characters that people know because they'll watch. If it's about Boba Fett, people are like, why do we obviously no one wanted.
Oh my God, I so agree with you.
Story about Boba Fett. Do you know what I mean?
When
I
the
don't know. I
book of
think that's
Boba
where a lot
Fett
of the issue
thing,
is.
when the book of Boba Fett thing started to get promoted, I was like, I don't care about Boba Fett. Like, I just don't understand the obsession with this character at all. Like, he could carry an entire TV series.
Well, he was a really cool part of Return of the Jedi, right? I think that's what he's also in Empire.
He's not even that cool. He has a cool helmet. That's all he has.
He's got a rocket. He's got a rocket pack.
The minute he uses the rocket pack, about 1 to 3 minutes later, he dies in like the most pathetic way. Like, it's a joke.
Sure. I mean, yeah, he was never meant to, be the protagonist of a series.
Exactly.
But I think Paula makes a really good point that George Lucas is part of why Star Wars, a lot of it doesn't work. Now, we can only really give him credit for you can't even really give him total credit for the first three. I mean, like Lawrence Kasdan directs the best one, maybe, arguably. But you can't give him total credit for the prequels, which he wrote and directed. And those movies are not good.
They're not good. And I was not a kid when they came out, but I was young. I mean, I wasn't old when they came out. I was a young teen, I think. I can't remember exactly what year. And I was so excited for them. And I thought they were bad when I saw them at the time. I was so disappointed. And I think
I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised to hear that because I felt differently. I was a little older than you, but not much. And I was very excited for The Phantom Menace and I liked it. I remember not walking out of the theater at whatever I was, 18 years old, 17 years old, being like, that was terrible. I heard it was terrible from a whole bunch of people later. And then it sort of changed my opinion. Like, you definitely walked out of that first one like that stunk.
Well, not the whole thing, because I did end up getting, like, I have the movie soundtrack from it. Like, I liked it enough to buy the
Duel
CD
of
the music.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about the first one, Phantom Menace, that really bothered me, and I feel bad saying this because I know he got bullied for it, but like the kid, whatever his name is, I can't remember now.
Yeah, Jake
whatever,
Lloyd,
was not good, and I don't think that's his fault. I think he was probably poorly directed, but that's
poorly written. Are you an angel?
Stuck out to me, and he's like, I just have memories of him like flying a spaceship and being like, "Go left, whoa, oh no," and I was like, "Wow, he's really bad." And I, had dreams at this time when they announced they were making new Star Wars movies. I was like, there needs to be a young Princess Leia and I must play her. And so to see kids get to be in these movies and not be any good. Maybe I was just like jealous. But that's the part in the first one that stuck out to me as being bad.
There is a young Princess Leia
yeah.
in Revenge of the Sith, if I remember correctly. A baby.
Yeah,
Right?
an infant.
Unfortunately,
see her as
slightly
an
too
infant.
old to play her.
So,
And then, yeah,
have you? Do you like Andor, Paula?
I will say, I have to say this. I have not seen any of the TV shows
Okay.
because it's the same reason why I haven't watched Picard. Like, I have such a love for... I don't want to taint my love for this thing, right? Like, I don't want to ruin Jean-Luc Picard in my mind with this new version of him that, what if I don't like it? I love Star Trek The Next Generation. Why would I ruin it by
Paula,
giving myself
just do
something
what the
new?
rest of us do. Taint your mind by watching it and then just complain and grouse about it online. Because you have no love in your life.
I have heard that Andor is good, but I haven't seen The Mandalorian. I haven't seen any of the TV shows. I thought that Rogue One was a bad movie.
I agree with that.
Wow,
I don't think
a lot of people
I don't think Rogue One is good.
A lot of people don't think that, but Jared is
terrible.
one of them. He thinks it's bad.
People love Rogue One. Rogue One, I will admit, looks amazing. It looks so beautiful. And
should
some
care.
of the fight sequences are incredible.
I should care about the characters in this
we don't
story,
remember
and
any
I
of those
don't.
characters.
Spoilers, and not really, because it's Rogue One. You know what happens. They die at the end, and I did not care. And I was like, wow, you've had, 2.5 hours to make me care about these people? And you didn't do it. And I'm the most empathetic person in the world. So if you can't make me care about your characters, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Paula cries when we kill a frog in Blood of the Wild.
I cry every time we record Blood of the Wild. Come on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think a lot of these things end up suffering from character, a lack of character, and an attempt to try to recreate or remanufacture characters from a movie that's not it. And I will say this, Paula, some of my viewings of those extended properties were so disappointing that it kind of started souring me on even the original movies. I started to just not like. I was like, wait, are those not even that good? And then Andor saved me. So I would watch Andor if I were you. I'd give it a shot because to me first of all, it is so different than Star Wars, so that it feels like its own thing, which is great. But then it has elements of Star Wars that make it feel that much more real and interesting and nuanced. And so, I would say definitely give it a shot because it's made me. It has reinvigorated my childlike love for Star Wars in a way that nothing else has by a long shot. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm going to get Skid up here in a minute. Skid wants to join as well. I remember being, when I was a kid, being like scared. I don't know. I'll use the term scared, terrified, really, of stormtroopers and walkers, right? To be oh my God. And I feel like
Are you
Andor,
terrified of walkers because they are a vehicle that makes no sense?
Yes, I guess that's
You guys have flying ships. The rebels beat the AT-ATs with flying ships.
It's just so funny. But when you're a kid, you don't think this way. You just think, oh, it's a weird fantasy world. And I was so scared of them. But as an adult, you're kind of like, oh, these are kind of funny and a little bit silly. And there's been a lot of obvious parodies made of stormtroopers and stuff. But Andor does a great job of reigniting that fear as an adult of how scary a imperialist military is. It's really, really well done. Paula, if you'd love to stick around, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to invite Skid up here now, our good buddy Skid. You know him from Blood of the Wild. Skid.
I don't want to monopolize things here. But I'll just say I think, and then I'll say hello to Skid, and then I'll bounce. But my final closing thought on Star Wars is I think maybe we should all just start making stories about new things and let go of the need to continually retell tell stories within these same worlds just because
Never
they've sold
gonna
in
happen.
the past. And I know that that's not how it's going to work, at least not for a while. That's not the cycle we're in.
They're not going to spend that much money on a new idea ever. They'll never spend that much money on a new idea.
It's very sad, but
because as you pointed out, or someone pointed out, people will go to a Star Wars movie whether it gets good reviews, bad reviews. They don't care. They will watch a Star Wars show, whether it's good or bad, all the way to the end, because it's Star Wars. It's why I watched The Rings of Power. I love Tolkien. If we want them to start making new things, I guess we have to stop watching stuff just because it's a franchise we like.
Well, we can watch it if it's a franchise we like, if it's good, but let's stop putting up with, I don't know. But also, if some people like it, then it's fine. Like, there are people who like these shows, and it's okay if you genuinely like it.
For sure.
If you like the prequels, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay. Paula, thank you so much for calling in, stepping up, and giving us your opinion. Great to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'll leave. Hi, Skid. Bye, Skid.
Hello. Hello.
Bye, Paula. Skid, what's up, good buddy?
How does this work? I can't hear you guys.
Oh, you gotta right click and unmute me on Discord. Oh, he doesn't know that because he can't hear me. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. In the meantime,
I think another reason that Star Wars is so hard to make content about is that it's been going on for 40 years. So it's like
hello. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just like weighed down by tradition. So they always end up copying stuff, like the desert planet in The Force Awakens is just like a 1-to-1 with Tatooine. Hey, Skid, what's up?
Hello, buddy. I just wanted to speak out quickly. I know you haven't gotten to Andor yet.
Skid's been on the show before, right?
I have been on the show. I've never first time caller though.
First time caller, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak out.
Skid was literally a guest, when we did the D&D settings show.
That's right.
So I mean, people are afraid to take risks, and there's just this like 40 years of tradition, which anything that goes that long, the cracks start to show. I think any institution that goes, 40 or 50 years, it gets weighed down by all these arcane rules that have kind of developed and piled up and congealed over time. So now Star Wars has all these rules, and if you know anything about being creative, you want some rules, you want some guidelines, but you don't want too many, or it really stifles it. And I feel like that's a lot of what happens to the Star Wars shows, is that they get weighed down by that 40 years of history.
Yeah, I agree. Skid, what did you want to weigh in on?
I just wanted to speak out in defense of Boba Fett.
Please, the floor is yours.
Because a lot of people will say, it's like, well, he didn't do anything. He is just a guy with a cool helmet. That's why people like him. And I want to say, no, that's not true. And there's two reasons why. I think that why he's an intriguing character to most people. Apart from it, he has a cool look. He does have a cool look. But apart from that, there's two substantial reasons.
And a cool name.
He also has a cool name. That's a very cool name. The first reason is he is the only person who can suss out Han Solo's plan to evade the Imperial fleet. He's the only one that knows what Han Solo's doing. He figures it out, and he follows him to Bespin.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason, and the biggest one, is that he is one of the only people in the movie that Darth Vader respects. To the extent that he even talks back to Darth Vader, and instead of force choking him, he's just like, all right.
Yeah.
Darth Vader, that tells us everything that we need to know about the character.
It is pretty interesting, and how he just is kind of like, he's like, he needs to be in good condition or whatever, right? Like he's no good to me.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth
no
a
good
lot
to
me.
me.
The Empire will compensate you if he is damaged.
Right. It's almost like Vader saying,
like,
I'm sorry. Like,
so hey, no, it's cool.
We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. The Empire has your back, Boba Fett.
So it's like, it's okay. Yeah, don't get angry. That's my defense. That's my defense of Boba Fett.
It's a good
and
defense.
I will agree he does not. He's not treated well in Return of the Jedi. Like goes out in a very bad way. I think that was poorly planned. Some of the extended stuff makes him look pretty cool, but the Book of Boba Fett, even though it could have been really good, like there's a reason to want it. It was so badly executed that it left a bad taste in almost everyone's mouth, and it made him look even worse.
Yeah. Isn't there expanded universe stuff before they rebooted all of it where Boba Fett crawled out of the Sarlacc pit and like...
Yeah,
there is. Yeah. Like
which they sort of...
By the way, Skid, I'm sorry if I was interrupting you earlier. I had you on mute, and I thought you were having technical difficulties, and it was me.
Well, I had you on mute, too, so...
that's perfect. Okay.
Yeah, okay. It's a very tricky
Boba
system.
Fett's cool, man. Boba Fett's cool.
Yeah, I think he's really cool. And I know also, I just want to say before I get off here, I know you haven't talked about Andor yet. It looks like it's on the slate.
Yeah, it's up next if you want to hang.
Okay. Yeah, I'll hang out because I just finished episode 8 of season 2. And I had tears streaming down my face. It is one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen.
All right, great.
Wow.
So we're only doing, we're going to do minor spoilers today, Skid, only up through episode 3. We're just going to talk through the first 3 eps, and then we're going to come back and do the whole season in a few weeks. We'll do the whole look back through the whole season in a few weeks. But hang in there. Let's take a caller. We really monopolized the callers' time here with Skid and Paula, but let's get back to them. Corvus raised their hand, wanted to chat on Star Wars. Corvus, if you're still there, join us.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great,
good.
Corvus. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. I think the problem, as you guys were getting at, is kind of multifold with the Star Wars curse thing. One is as I think it was Paula pointed out that George Lucas didn't seem to care that much to begin with. He kind of stumbled ass backwards into Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he understood his own property. I don't think he really understood it. Yeah.
And all these interviews have Mark Hamill like asking all these questions of George Lucas, and George Lucas like, man, I don't know. Like, what do you want? and it's kind of evidenced by a lot of people believing that Empire Strikes Back is the best of the original 3, and it's the one he had the least hand in. The second thing is that the worst part of this is the fans. The worst thing you could do for any piece of media or art is like a thing, because it turns you into the worst human imaginable. So these things become so important to people. And if you're just slightly off of like their version of what they think a thing is, they are going to become awful.
Yeah, and I'll just say I did a little dip into some Star Wars like videos, fan-made videos like for this, and the Star Wars fandom, it gets so toxic. I mean, role-playing game fandom is Rachel Maddow compared to the Steve Bannon that is Star Wars content. It is
terrible.
So scary.
It is terrible. But for a lot of things are great. I think Mandalorian's great. I really liked Acolyte because I'm the average Star Wars viewer, I think, because like I kind of casually enjoy things. I do not love anything. But Acolyte I thought was really fun because it's a Star Wars Kung Fu revenge show. And man, I
mean, that sounds awesome, but just to the point of there's too much content. Until yesterday, I didn't know the Acolyte existed.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Like the video games are usually pretty good. I think Outlaws, I'm going to be in the minority here, but I thought Outlaws was fun. Partially.
Knights of the Old Republic.
I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is a phenomenal.
Really, really good. I think Outlaws is great though, because it doesn't have Jedi in it at all, and it doesn't mention the Skywalkers once.
Neither does Andor.
Yeah,
no
that's
Jedi.
another reason why Andor's so good.
Yeah,
right.
Corvus.
I think people are done with the Skywalkers. I think that's what it is.
Corvus, thanks so much for calling in. That was awesome. And yes,
Thanks,
I think you're
Corvus.
right. Maybe that Skywalker arc has reached its pinnacle maybe a long time ago, and we just kind of need to move on from that. And I don't know. Some shows are obviously doing that. I don't know. Are we being too hard on Star Wars, on its content? I wonder, because
I would love to hear an apologist on the line.
Anything with this volume of work, isn't the percentage like not that bad? I mean, wouldn't you say that of all the volume that's out there, 10 to 15% of it is great, and maybe another 20-30% is good? I mean, is that fair to say
Someone's
about
definitely
the
done the
Star
math
Wars
on
content?
this somewhere. Someone's done the math.
It's hard to make hundreds of hours of TV and dozens of hours of films all great. I mean, in any genre, in any like sort of one tone setting universe, whatever. So I don't know. Maybe Star Wars isn't doing that bad when you, as Corvus was saying, when you consider, the volume, and there is a decent amount out there that's good. Jared, I want to ask you about something that you mentioned to me off air in a second. I'm going to take one more call, and then I want you to talk to me about an interesting zine you read from the 80s
yes.
about Star Wars. Let's get Ben up here in the meantime. Ben, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got
Ben,
you,
how
Ben.
you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing
really
great.
good.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Corvus said, really. And also add in that I was 11 when Attack of the Clones came out. And with my siblings, we must have watched it 100 times, maybe more.
Wow.
All right. So you're right. I guess I'm wrong. I was a little too old at the time of Attack of the Clones, too. And do you look
what do you
back
think
on
of it now?
fondly?
What do you think of it now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do not go back to rewatch the prequels. That is true. I don't go back to rewatch the sequels. And I haven't gone back to watch the original trilogy that much either. In my mind, when I was a kid, the original trilogy and the prequels were pretty much on the same level. I enjoyed them all. I just loved the world, and I loved all the lore and just learning more about the world. And that's really what stayed with me with Star Wars. So, like Corvus, I enjoy the new properties, the new TV shows and stuff that come out, because I love building up this world in my mind and understanding the universe.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, thank you. The point that part of the enjoyment now, and this was not true, I think, in the 1950s or the 70s, is that part of the enjoyment of these things is just learning all of the lore and going online in addition to watching the thing and finding out how all the little threads connect. Like, people enjoy things that way now. And by that yardstick, everything in Star Wars succeeds, right? All of it has these little Easter eggs and these little threads that tie the whole universe together.
In reading about this, I was reading something on Polygon that I found kind of interesting. That was like one of the things that makes these Star Wars shows and movies suffer sometimes is the need to constantly bring up those connections and those attachments. And it can sometimes feel forced and decrease the quality of what would have been something better if you just let it be on its own and didn't have to tie it in to some other thing, so that a fan for 1 second can go, "Ooh, neat."
Yeah, but I think that producers and filmmakers to some extent are like, it's hard to make them feel something, so we'll do this kind of cheap way of making you feel something.
Yeah.
We'll do this kind of like straight across the plate, easy to do way of making you feel something. And they should stop doing that.
It's a narrative cheat. It also makes the universe feel that much smaller when it's just like, it feels like a small town when everything's interconnected. It's hard to make it feel expansive.
Yeah, I've agreed. Yeah.
Jared, tell us again about that zine that you mentioned.
So on my dad thread, where I have like a text thread with all these dads I know, some of them in New York, one of them posted this editorial from a Star Wars fanzine from 1981, where the fanzine writers state that they are going to end publication of their fanzine because they are disappointed in The Empire Strikes Back.
I've seen this.
They doubt that the creator. One of the things they say, they doubt if the creators even know what their movie is about.
Yeah.
And they end it by saying that The Empire Strikes Back is a quote dead thing with no life.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it was even like that back then.
Yeah, we know that was sort of the vibe. There was a lot of sort of negativity within the reviews and like everything else is like, this isn't Star Wars. That happened like initially, and it took time for people to be able to appreciate it the way they do now.
Yeah.
Let's
so
keep
funny.
it moving. Obviously these are major problems we're not going to solve today, but definitely some interesting points on it. And thanks for everybody who called in on it. And please hang in there if you want to talk Andor with your call. I would like to move on to Andor though. We got to get a lot in this episode, and I want to talk about season 2 of Andor, which just started. We're not going to go too far into detail. We're just going to do a little 3-episode dip.
That first 3 episodes they released all at once.
That
right?
first release, and you can
Which
kinda
is like
tell.
a movie.
Yeah.
It's like a movie in and of itself.
It feels like in the structure of making it, they knew this was the release schedule, but while they were shooting, editing, planning, writing, etc. And so it does feel like it has an arc, and man, oh man, does it come to a real incredible climax in episode 3. So we'll do some minor spoilers here as we talk through this, and then we're going to jump right into talking about some IP role-playing. Skid, thank you for calling in, buddy. Why don't you tell us your first impressions, because you were a huge Andor fan. You turned me onto it in season 1. And then what did you think as season 2 got out of the gate? Episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. What were your thoughts?
I was, I'm a massive supporter of the show, as I've made clear on every show that we do.
Yes.
I can't stop talking about it, but it sort of started the same way that they kind of made a contrast with Tony Gilroy was just like, everyone's complaining about how slow the first season started. It's just like, it's a slow burn. So he's just like, I'm going to start with a heist like immediately. So I love that he's like, he steals the TIE fighter, whatever it is, the experimental TIE fighter immediately. And you think it's this, and it's the first time in Star Wars where someone isn't amazing at something right off the bat.
Right.
If you get anything, he's gonna get away. And he doesn't know how to drive it. It's just like, why would you know how to drive everything? You can pilot one thing. How can you pilot everything? Especially and the fact that it takes him so long to figure it out, he never quite gets it.
long. Long.
Yeah, it takes him forever. And it's like, I love that idea of like, he has this amazing ship, but he can't figure it out. It's so great. And so that was awesome. I really love, a lot of people had a problem with the second episode where he goes to what we eventually find out is Yavin. And he gets
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's that you see it at the end when he like takes off. You can see the temples like in the background.
I didn't notice it. Okay.
Remind me what Yavin is. Is that the third moon of Endor?
No, that's
the Rebel
a
base.
New Hope.
Oh,
New
okay.
Base is a New Hope.
Okay.
Yeah. So the fact that he gets caught up in this sectarian sort of struggle between these two, it makes all this stuff. It really makes me think of Life of Brian, where it's like you have the Judean People's Front and the Judean Popular Front. They hate each other more than they hate the Romans. And it's like, I love seeing that. I love seeing the real struggle that had to take place to get these idiots on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, you adding that layer that is eventually the rebel base is such an interesting layer, because this is where the rebellion will one day be organized and ready to like fight. But right now it looks like this. It's like 10 people in an old trailer fighting with each other.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's like everyone has a different agenda, and that's another thing that I love. One of my favorite little speeches in this show. I love Saw Gerrera, by the way.
Yeah,
in this, like he's so great, and I love his little
Forrest
speech
Whitaker.
that he. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker, one of my favorite actors of all time, And I love the speech that he gives to Luthen when he comes up, and he's just like listing all these different factions within like the possible Rebel Alliance. And he's just like, Maya Pay's Brigade, Human Cultists, Sectorists, New Republic. Like he's listing all these up. It's like they're lost, all of them lost. Like it's great. Like I love that
so
idea that there's all
good.
these. It's so good. It's so
when
good.
you're a kid, like I was, and you're just watching Star Wars, like you just think, oh, there's the Empire and there's the Rebellion, right? And they're all in the Alliance, and they are all completely organized. They have they're a real thorn in the Empire side because they're growing in their strength or whatever. Man, what an interesting concept to bring in Andor. It's just that, you know what, it doesn't start that way. It's all kind of like factional, all kinds of little groups that all have their own issues, but they don't even trust each other. And I'll tell you, was it episode 2 when he first gets to Yavin and starts meeting these guys, or at the end of episode 1?
At the very end of episode 1, I think, or toward
either
the
way.
end.
Either way, I loved it from the jump. Like the first lines out of those characters' mouths were so good. They were, and well acted too. They were funny, natural. It felt very real. And there were like a dozen of them, and they all had lines. Like they were all kind of talking over each other.
I love the very first thing they say is like, you have 15 blasters pointed at you right now. And the other guy's like, why would you tell him how many?
Don't tell him how many. Dude, it felt to me like I was running a role-playing game. Like the players are just like, don't tell him how many.
Those people on Yavin were a role-playing game party for sure.
They were. That's a poorly designed role-playing game party.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were. Let's move into episode 3, where man, oh man, does it. I sat there, mouth agape for a good portion, especially at the end of that episode, and in my opinion, tragic loss in that episode.
Oh,
Brasso. Yeah. That's the character's name.
God, why do you gotta do that, man? Like, I loved that guy in season 1. Loved him.
I think people are gonna keep dropping like flies, man.
Just tighten
people
it up.
are just gonna keep dropping. Yeah, I mean,
not to spoil the next episodes at all, but yes,
Get ready, prepare yourself.
Yeah, get ready.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten into the Mon Mothma of it all.
Oh my God, yeah,
Space
Mon
wedding.
Mothma. I mean, the scene. So first of all, here's another thing I just want to bring up. What cool, you would call it world building, right? If it wasn't like an already built world. But obviously Tony Gilroy, in my opinion, is like adding a lot, right, to this world and the rituals. I mean, this is a really hard thing. If you're writing a world as an RPG designer, a game writer, you're home brewing and you're trying to create rituals from scratch, belief systems, I have found that to be the hardest thing that I've ever kind of tried to do. And the way that he does the steps of the wedding and the multiple days and what is done and the wedding hike and all of that was like so great. It didn't seem insane and it all felt very real, but a complete fantasy world, a complete different culture.
Yeah, I cut the girl's lock.
Yeah, with a knife.
Because that she's been growing that since she was a kid. And it's like cutting it is like you're a woman now or you're a wife now, you know. It's and it's
the
so
father
sad.
sort of echoes. It echoes the Jedi coming of age ritual too, where they cut off their Padawan braid.
Right.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
That's right. I didn't even think of that. And so the father of the bride gives the boy the knife. He takes it and ceremoniously says, "I will not return this." To which, the father says, I wouldn't expect to receive it, or something like that. I don't really but it was very formal. And then he turns and cuts the braid. Very interesting. Oh, by the way, can we just say
the knife is his dick, right? The knife is I'm giving you my dick.
Yeah, here's my wiener.
What? That's what it is, Joe. It is. That's the symbolism.
It's clearly a space wiener, Joe.
Space wiener.
But I love that.
When are we going to see full-on
because
Star Wars sex? Go ahead. Sorry, Skid.
Well, it's just so much of the show is about sacrifice and what people have to sacrifice to achieve this goal of the defeating the Empire. And Luthen has his whole speech, he loses everything. He loses his entire sense of self, his decency. He burns everything for a sunrise he'll never see. And Mon Mothma, she's giving up her whole life too. Like she's giving up her daughter. She's giving up that is like emblematic of everything that she has to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And we're only just scratching the surface of it. And that's such a great theme in the show too, and that's a great example of it.
Yeah. And then Cyril and Dedra and Krennic. Krennic's great. I mean, it's Mendelsohn, but I mean, like all of that stuff. I keep saying I would watch a show just about people at work at the Empire.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's so good, especially when you got good characters like that, because everybody they introduced in season 1 was great. Same thing with season 2, obviously Mendelsohn being the large one. There's an interesting concept that's introduced here. We've talked on this show before, Jared, about like if you liked or, if you this, the whole Empire thing seemed very inspired to me by a movie. It can be tough to watch HBO original movie that Stanley Tucci did with Kenneth Branagh called Conspiracy.
Yeah, and we just rewatched it. We just rewatched it a couple days ago.
It's an incredible movie. It is. It's loosely, supposedly based on a true story, based on found German documents about notes of essentially the leadership of all different elements of the German war front and civil leaders coming together to discuss the Jewish question and like what exactly they're going to do.
The Wannsee Conference.
Yeah, it's a Nazi conference, and the movie is almost like a play. It's like in one room, all these great actors around a table, and they sort of talk through it, and everybody is not saying what everybody knows is like going to happen or leading to, because it's all very like civil, it's all very, policy-esque, everything has to be in writing, everything's being recorded, right? And to me, that was the analog that I got, or I drew that connection in the way that Mendelsohn starts that meeting about this world and starts going into detail. And you can see Daedra being like, wait a minute, like we all know what we're talking about here, and I want no part of it. And there are characters like that in Conspiracy. There are people sitting around that table that are like, wait, what are we actually talking about this? Like, no way. Like, and so, anyway, I thought that was such a cool concept.
I said the same thing when it started playing out. I was just like, it's conspiracy. It's conspiracy. I was just like,
I bet that was I mean, I haven't seen Conspiracy, but I bet it was a full influence on it.
It was for sure.
Yeah.
Because everybody is like chiming in their things. You see, but like everybody in the room, including the audience, knows what the Empire is going to do if they feel like it at any given point. But they're all talking about it, how we do, to get this mineral, to do whatever, it has.
I also feel like that a thing that they do all the time where all of the Imperials are sitting around that big round table and the boss is in the middle. That feels like a writer's room if you've ever worked in a writer's room.
Yeah, it does.
Where you're like, I'll chime in. And then the person at the top's like, no, that's incorrect. You've lost clout in this room.
Let's stick with Daedra for a second. I mean, it just keeps piling on. Her with the mom was so
oh my god, what a great
awesome scene. And for a couple reasons. Yes, it's badass, but it's also like it's so cool to see that character from season 1 who is such a no nonsense, hard-nosed, going up through the ranks of the Empire, difficult path sort of person, having to have like dinner with her boyfriend's mom. Right? Like just these very real life sort of situations that they get put in, and her trying to just be nice, be charming, etc. And seeing her play that was brilliant. I mean, she did a fantastic job with that. I thought that was so awesome. Scene. Oh, such a great scene. And I'm trying to think of what else, jumps out. I mean, I guess that's kind of it for now. I'll say,
well, there's one other thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's one other thing that happens in the 6th episode. Oh, well, no, the 3rd episode. Sorry, that a lot of people take an issue with, which is the attempted act of sexual violence. That and a lot of people have said that it's just like, well, that's not Star Wars, and it's like that doesn't belong in Star Wars. And I'm like, well, no, like. First of all, they allude to it a lot in the rest of the whole sort of legacy of it. It's alluded to. We don't see it that way. Well, actually, one of the arguments that I saw, this one particular sort of personality who does not like Andor, just doesn't get it. And this is one of the arguments that he made was that Darth Vader would never allow this to happen in the Empire. First of all, not sure that that's true. I don't think that that's true. But second, you think he signed off on it? You think Vader like stamped an order for this guy to do that? It's just like, no, it's like he's doing it without anyone's knowledge. He's not doing it. He is a person. He is a fascist.
Yeah.
Who is taking advantage of the power that he's been given by the state.
Yeah.
People just don't let people, that's triggering for some people. And they're like, because it's triggering for me, it does not belong in a show. And I think that is incorrect analysis. Something can be triggering for you, but it still belongs in a show because it shows the depth of evil, maybe in the organization or in the world that they exist in. It shows, that character Bix is just trauma after trauma after trauma,
just
and
piled on to her, again and again, like all these different layers of trauma that have been like thrown on her. And it's like, that's one of the reasons that Andor has revived my love of this property so much, is because it's added layers of real, visceral, comprehensible evil to the Empire. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate the Empire more than ever after like watching as much of Andor as I've watched. Like Samantha was just saying, it's just like blowing up a planet means so much less. It's so much more difficult to really grok than like watching these individual acts of banal evil being perpetrated by the people in the Empire, by the system. It means so much more, and it just elevates everything. Mm-hmm. Like, I won't the original trilogy, like it adds more to the original trilogy now when I rewatch it. It's like it's great.
Yeah. I agree. Let's take a call on it. Clorp has joined the Discord and wants to weigh in on Andor. Clorp!
Oh, good. Clorp Dunk is here.
Clorp is here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Yeah. I know Jared is a big fan, and Joe's a big fan. Wanted to bring up this crazy thing, May 4th, you get all sorts of social media stuff and everybody talking about this and that. Mon Mothma was in the prequels, the actor that plays Mon Mothma.
Really? I did not realize that.
Yeah, she played Mon Mothma in... oh, no, yeah, she was. And she played it in...
There was scenes that were cut or whatever, and she was in... cut from episode 3.
By the way, Genevieve O'Reilly, she looks like she could be Sydney's aunt, I think.
Yeah,
like maybe not sister or mom, but she looks like she could be related to Sydney.
I agree. Very
she could
similar.
play Sydney's aunt in the GCN movie.
She could. She's more than welcome.
We're out to her reps.
You got anything else there, Clorp, on Andor? Are you liking it?
Clorp, any more factoids?
Yeah, I guess that was the factoid. Yeah, I feel like it really is just like Nazis. They're just what did the Nazis do, and how did people deal with that? And that's how they're kind of running this season. How does a resistance function, especially like a beginning? All that. So.
Yeah,
I really enjoy this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
awesome.
It's not just Nazis. It's also Stalin. It's also that regime and how they would relocate people and purge people. Yeah, there's been a lot of authoritarian regimes.
Let's get Infinite Diversity up to chat in on Andor before we move on. Pretty soon we're going to be talking about our little GCR homebrew, so get ready for that. We want you to help us homebrew a little scenario here. Infinite, your mic is muted. If you can unmute it.
Yes. Hey, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good. So I just want to first off say, long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Supported you guys since 2017.
Wow.
Your content, is a comfort to me in these trying times we live in. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you so much,
nice.
Infinite. I really appreciate it.
With regards to Andor, I think with Andor, so I've been I watched. So Star Wars was the first movie I saw in the theater. I was like 5 at the time, and so it holds a special place in my, in my own, in my heart. But it's kind of lost me, the last few years, and I think Andor it's just reattracted me back to the property. Mm-hmm. I think the reason, someone in the New York Times, a reviewer in the New York Times, put it best. It just recontextualizes Star Wars for me where I am right now. So like when looking back on the original trilogy, it's like, okay, we got these space wizards and they're fighting, and these like plucky little rebels who are fighting like this galactic empire like out in the far reaches of space, right? And it's like oppressor versus oppressed, and it's all fun. It's kind of a very simplistic view of the struggle, but I guess with Andor, what Andor does, it just, and I guess that review in the New York Times puts it well. It's like it shows, like the rebellion being built one brick at a time, but it also shows like how the empire is being built one brick at a time.
Yes,
by like like how just like it's not just the emperor imposing like this oppressive system. It's how well he imposes this impressive system, but it's like all these little people like underneath who said, okay, we're buying into this system of cruelty and dehumanization and racism, and we're just going to perpetuate it. And and it's not like that the ISB is taking orders from the emperor. Well, I mean, taking orders from the emperor to like let's do these inhumane things on people. It's just like, oh, these people saying, well, we're just going to give, we're being told like we got to accomplish this goal, so we're going to do it in whatever way we see fit. Right.
Yeah. It's a great point, Infinite, and thanks for calling in. We didn't really talk about what a great job the show does of developing the Empire. Like it's really great how it shows piece by piece how that gets developed. Good call.
It really feels like all the other Star Wars properties were kind of holding back on the Empire. Like we don't really quite get how evil and why they're evil. We don't really see the effects. We just see Darth Vader force choking people. I think that when you see this show, you're like, oh, fuck the Empire. I want to see him go down.
Exactly. I think that's what's so great about it. I think that, and we're going to move on here in a second to IP role-playing. I think that it's like, when I look at IP role-playing, I look at Star Wars, for example, and the different ways that those games split up, right? You got like the Outer Rim sort of games, the Age of Rebellion game, and the Force and Destiny game. When you look at it as the Sith being the bad guys and not the Empire, it changes things a little bit. There's this more fantasy, evil, magical villain, magical evil wizards aspect, as opposed to a straight up fascist empire aspect as the villain. It's so much more interesting to me, and I will admit, as you said very early in the show, Jared, as an adult, that interests me a lot more than the evil magical wizards.
Yeah,
right.
An espionage show is maybe more interesting to a man in his 40s. Maybe. I mean, it all depends on how it's done, but yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing real quick, and then I'll say goodbye? Almost the entirety of Star Wars up to this point has been sort of like The Hobbit, which is this story being told metatextually told through the lens that a child could understand it. Star Wars as a whole had never really gotten its Lord of the Rings, where it's like this story is told for a more mature audience through that much more mature lens. Andor is Lord of the Rings to Star Wars.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah,
I love that.
Thank you, Skid, and thanks for calling in.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for letting me rant.
Love the show.
Of course, anytime.
Okay. Take it easy, buddy. Yeah, so that's a great point. I wonder if Tony Gilroy, if it has to be Tony Gilroy, or if he has set here a base off which other people can build a darker, more adult-focused story that involves Jedi, that involves Sith.
I mean, Joe, I bet it has to be Tony Gilroy, because with these things so often it's about the people and not the trappings. And I bet you someone else will come along and try to do a very adult Star Wars show and boof it.
Yeah, I just Tony Gilroy. So I don't know anything about Tony Gilroy except that I know he did Rogue One, right? So I just know that, and then I go back in digging in prep for this episode, and I'm blown away by all the stuff that this guy has done that I love. And these are not like people's favorites of all time, but whatever he does, whatever his special sauce is, like I just lap it right up. He is known for on IMDb Michael Clayton, and I love.
Okay, I haven't seen Michael Clayton.
I love Michael Clayton. I for whatever reason, I just loved that movie. He did the Bourne series, the Bourne movies.
Okay,
Bourne Identity,
the Bourne movies
Supremacy.
are fun. I love the Bourne movies.
That trilogy is so good. So good. He's on the writing team for Armageddon with J.J. Abrams. I love Armageddon.
Wow.
It's right.
Was Armageddon J.J. Abrams or was it Jerry Bruckheimer?
Jerry Bruckheimer, like production director, but let's see, the writers were Jonathan Hensley, J.J. Abrams, and Tony Gilroy.
Michael
I didn't
Bay
realize
that.
Michael Bay
that's amazing.
it.
Michael Bay, of course.
Yeah, it was in the Bay Area. It was in the Bay
Area. Wait, was that from this show or from Town Hall?
I feel like it was from this show.
I feel like it was
from this show. And then I'll just do one more on Tony Gilroy. His first writing credit is one of my all-time favorite rom-coms that I kind of grew up with. In my house, it was a big hit. The Cutting Edge. He wrote The Cutting Edge.
I don't know The Cutting Edge.
You don't know The Cutting Edge?
Wow, I gotta bone up on my Gilroy.
You gotta get some Gilroy in your life.
I've got some Gilroy gaps.
Gilroy gaps. Yeah, The Cutting Edge is an early 90s featuring D.B. Sweeney.
It's the ice skating movie.
Ice skating rom-com.
He's a hockey player. She's a figure skater.
Exactly.
Can they get it together to have a figure skating duel routine? I know what it is. I just haven't watched it. That's awesome.
Written by Tony Gilroy. And you know what? If I want to say, like, what are the things that these all have in common? It is simply like great characters. Just great characters that you just want more of, and they're flawed and they're interesting, and it's the same thing. And you go all the way back to The Cutting Edge, it's the same thing. Like the characters are not perfect. Sometimes they're not even that likable, but they feel real, and the story draws you in because it feels real. I think it's great. Anyway, good job, Tony Gilroy on The Cutting Edge.
Yeah, Tony Gilroy. In case anybody hasn't told you, good job, buddy.
Good job, buddy.
Let's get into IP role-playing.
Yeah, let's get into IP
I have a
role-playing.
lot to say about this.
Yes,
so,
please. You started off. Kick us off.
Here's what we're talking about today. We're talking about there are so many role-playing games now based on a property that exists in film, TV, novels. There's the Blade Runner game. There's the Dune game. There's the One Ring based on Tolkien. There are Star Wars games. There are Star Trek games. There's a Conan game. There's a Fallout game. All of these things build on properties people already know and love. Is it difficult to game master a game set in a fictional world that people are already familiar with? Is it easier? Is it easier to do that than in one that's completely invented? What are the challenges? What are the bonuses to this IP role playing? And what are some tricks to making it work? What do we think about the entire phenomenon? Do we think it's more fun to homebrew a world out of the pieces, the toolbox that D&D 5e gives you, for example? Or do we prefer to game in these recognizable worlds? I would just love to hear your thoughts on it, Joe, to start us off.
Yeah, and I want to hear caller thoughts on it. Particularly, I want to hear caller thoughts on what are great IP role-playing games. I know, Jared, I know you're a fan of the One Ring.
Yes.
I think it's a well-done game. I loved playing Age of Rebellion, the Star Wars IP that is specifically like you can create your own Andor game. Like that is essentially what it is. You are not Jedi. You have no force powers. You just are rebels trying to make it in a tough situation. It's like an espionage kind of game, but with plenty of gunfights and stuff. It's like the Jason Bourne, Robert Ludlum version of espionage. Super, super fun. In general, I used to not be into it. I thought that it was kind of like I thought that it was it had like a stigma like fan fiction, right? Where it's kind of like,
right.
Why don't you do something original? And with a D20 system, I could make up my own story using Tolkien's tropes and kind of like build my own homebrew. And I enjoyed, going down that path. Big turning points for me were Age of Rebellion and Alien, and the Alien RPG, which we're going to talk about in a second when we talk about creating a scenario. I want people to help me today create an Alien RPG one-shot little scenario. So we'll talk about that in a second.
When we get to the brewery, yeah.
When we get to the brewery, when we get to the GCR Brewery. But that game kind of turned it around for me because working with my buddy McD on that and playing it as part of New Game Who Dis with a spectacular cast. Who was that? It was Grant and Kate, Troy, and was it Skid? I think it was Skid. I think. So like that original cast, we told our own original Alien story and it was so fun and it brought back all that nostalgia. But what's interesting is you have the capability to set the tone however you want to set it. However you're comfortable, your table is comfortable with, the level of violence or the level of whatever, that's in it. Skid ran me through Blade Runner. I loved it. I liked it better than I liked the original movie, which I was not huge fan of.
Oh, I love that movie, but yeah.
Oh, I learned to appreciate it more from the role-playing game. I mean, being GM'd by a passionate fan like Skid, and you start to really see what the actual, getting to the depth of what the actual stories are you're trying to tell here, really helped me. It enlightened me about, so much more about it. Playing the Alien role-playing game enlightened me so much more about the deeper universe of the factions, the wars, and the other companies besides Weyland-Yutani, how they all interact. Really, really kind of fun world-building stuff. Overall, I'd say I am now a way bigger fan than I used to be. I think Free League does amazing work in this realm, as does Modifius. Yes. And I never played Star Trek, but I would love to play Star Trek. I would played too. Dune,
I've never played it, but I have the new edition of the role-playing game, and I'm dying to play a Kirk era game of Star Trek. That's what I would
Star
like
Trek
to do.
Adventure 2nd Edition. I mean, you might see some of that soon on the GCN, I'm hoping. But it's just, I don't know. I love it, and I do think that there are some, I'll say the one major thing I struggle with is, do you have to hit, it's the same thing we talk about all show with Star Wars. Andor, I love Andor so much because of how it separates itself from the original trilogy and does something different, tells a different kind of story. As I got deeper into Alien, all I was inspired to do is tell a different kind of Alien story. You still have to have the major themes of horror, of in space.
This is the difficulty, Joe. This is the difficulty. How do you make sure it feels like Alien, but is something new? How do you make it sure it feels like Lord of the Rings, but is something new? When I was running my The One Ring game, I had this band of bandits, this band of evil men attacking my party, and at one point, they started laughing, and stabbing people, and everybody immediately was like, "That doesn't feel like Tolkien." You know what I mean? It just didn't feel like Tolkien, and so. The difficulty of these IP role-playing games, which I love to play them, is that sometimes you hit notes in your GMing that don't feel like the property, and it sort of takes people out of it for a second. Yeah. So it's tricky that way. Another thing is, go ahead.
I was just going to say the other benefit to it, the positive side of that is, when you're playing with folks that are all familiar with the IP, you save so much time in dealing with world building, explaining the world, explaining the faction, explaining the nations, explaining whatever. So many things can be given that you can just focus in on character, which is really fun.
And almost everyone is at least passingly familiar with Star Wars, with Alien, with Tolkien, Blade Runner, maybe not as many, but a lot of people can go, "Oh, I'm on board. I know what this world is. I'm ready to go." And you're not sitting there going, "Well, in my Faerun, elves act like this." People know what you're talking about. But another issue, Joe, is who do we play? Because in Star Wars, it often feels like the big conflict has already been claimed by Luke and his friends, right? Like, who are you? The guy that helps Luke? Are you the guy that loads up the Millennium Falcon? Like, it's such a problem that in the Dune role-playing game, the big campaign that they've published for it just says, okay, instead of the Atreides, you're the ones who take over Arrakis. And it's just called an alternate history campaign where you play out the novels as if, or at least the first novel, as if your family is the one that's doing it. So they couldn't even think of alternate things that could happen on the planet. It was too difficult. They had to go, it's just the book storyline, but you. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying with the difficulty there? How it's hard to find
I see what you're
space.
saying. I feel like it's interesting. I'm not as
It's hard to
well-versed.
find space for your characters sometimes. The space for the epic conflict seems like it might be taken up.
But you see, that's why I didn't have much interest in Force and Destiny, that angle of the Star Wars role-playing, and plenty of interest in Age of Rebellion. I feel like Andor, the conflicts that you come into planet to planet, no matter where you are, with the Empire, feel important. It doesn't have to be blowing up the Death Star to feel important.
Right.
Dune is tricky. If you're talking about Arrakis, it's spice, it's Shai-Hulud, it's sandworms, it's the Fremen. That's kind of it. That's what it is.
Conflicts are big. The conflicts are big, and I feel like there are less pieces, right? There are less
pieces. I mean, you could easily do a Dune story that does not involve Arrakis, doesn't involve worms and sand people or Fremen.
Yeah. And we did stories here on the GCN that were set on Arrakis but did different things. So it's possible to do it, but it's super tricky. Should we take some calls?
Yeah, let's see if anybody else wants to weigh in on good IP. Slow-Eyed Joe, are you there? Slow-Eyed Joe, if you want to weigh in on IP role-playing, feel free.
Afternoon, guys.
Hey,
hi, good afternoon.
Good. So my opinion on this, a good IP role-playing game can help set the parameters of the world you're playing in, really hone and focus kind of the feeling and the vibe of the world, whereas a more generic fantasy could just sort of feel plain Jane. And I think that the best IP role-playing games have mechanics that support the feeling of the world that you're in and help you kind of embody, and I think One Ring is a great example. The mechanics make it feel like Tolkien versus some other, fantasy world. I also think that
did we lose you there, Slow-Eye?
Slow-Eye makes a good point about the details. The depth is there because it's an IP, right? The depth is already there. Whereas when you're creating your own, it's hard to get that level of depth that, say, a Middle Earth. Oh, Slow-Eye, are you back?
Geez, sorry, Slow-Eye. We got to let you go. We're hearing a bad echo on your microphone. But yeah, I mean, well said.
Sorry, Slow-Eye.
Sorry, we'll get you another time. But there was a bad echo on your mic. There's just these that setting up the world, and having the mechanics fit it is not always easy. It can be a challenge, and I think Alien does a great job. I'm going to keep coming back to Alien.
The
stress mechanic and buddies and rivals mechanic. It feels very out of the movies, but also feels like you can very much so tailor it to your game. So you don't have to play Hudson and Hicks in order to be two colonial scientists that are buddies and get experience points when you look out for each other, or get experience points for when you show up your rival or you do something against your rival. It creates that, it feels like it gives you the tools you need. Now, this is not a role-playing game, but let me jump to Star Wars Rebellion, which I just emailed McD about, because I was like, don't we have that in our collection? Because I want to take it back and try to play it again. I don't know if you've ever played Star Wars Rebellion, the board game from Fantasy Flight, I believe it is, but it does a great job of setting all the pieces for the Rebel conflict, but then you play it out and there's no way to tell how it's going to end up. The Empire could win, the Rebels could win, but it might not be at Yavin. It might not involve this Darth Vader. It might not involve whatever. It might involve some other Empire higher up that's whatever that's becomes the primary conflict. So these games, when they give you a good set of mechanics or pieces and NPCs to work with that can tell the story in your own way, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, mechanics that support like the vibe of that IP, I think, are super important to these games.
Let's get another call in here. Acting Gray just joined and would like to chime in. Acting Gray, if you're there, let's talk a little IP role playing if you want. In the meantime, we can see if there's anything else. I don't know. Is there anything else you think of?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, my thoughts are.
Acting Gray just came in. Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
we
here
got
he
you
is.
now.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for taking me.
You have a deep bass voice.
Why, thank you. Yes, I do. You're very observant, Jared. That's very good.
My balls are vibrating when you talk.
Jesus.
I was hoping he'd be your glutes, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So the point I wanted to chime in with, because you're kind of talking around it really effectively, is the scaffolding and the structure that all of these sort of these games set up are just like us when you set up successful improvisation games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you have a successful structure to play in that sandbox, that's when you can really feel free to take risks and explore. And I know a lot of personalities on the network are improvisers. So it's like when you have that structure set up, it can really create a lot of potential to be specific about your storytelling, and then also create that sort of infectious excitement, like you picked up on from Blade Runner, Joe.
It's easier to improvise in an IP setting, is what you're saying. It's easier to improvise in an IP setting.
Well, because you've had those points of the shared knowledge base, particularly if you have a group of people who love that particular IP, right? So it's just easier to latch into those different things than if you're just trying to sort of build your world from scratch, or from reading a 2-page player's guide. Right,
yeah, reading a little gazetteer. It's kind of tough to get your players to understand. Like, yes, how easily you could improv. I mean, really, what's the difference between improving in an IP setting versus improving in just modern? Like a modern day set RPG.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like modern set games. One of the reasons I loved playing Vampire, because everybody knows the setting.
Everybody knows what Pittsburgh is.
They know what's in Pittsburgh. They know what cars are there and what kind of businesses would be there.
And they know other cities in the country that it's in. And you don't have to explain all that kind of stuff.
They know what their equipment is like, smartphone,
Right. You know that you can't put a snake on a bow and shoot it. Right.
Right. There are certain
because
rules.
There's physical laws of reality to play with.
Is there a particular IP game that you've played more than others, Acting Gray?
I haven't played a ton of IP games, though. I've only really played Pathfinder 1E and a couple sessions of Blades in the Dark. But I just love the content that you guys put out on the network with all of the different the settings, the Alien, Star Wars. They're just super fun to listen to, because those are worlds that I also enjoy. I'm busy. I have a toddler. I can't just go fuck off and play games all the time.
Yeah, I hear you.
As much as I'd love to.
Thanks for calling in, Acting. Yeah, I had to make it my job in order to do it as much as I want. But yeah, that's the other thing, is like on the network there are complications when you get into IP, right? Like Publishers have certain, we don't have to go down this road, but just a little tidbit, like publishers have certain licenses to do certain things. That doesn't mean that we can go on and start talking about Wayland Yutani and talking about, LV-426, all this kind of stuff. And then just like, let's say our Alien game blows up and like there are a bunch of advertisers want to sell on it. Like, all of a sudden, anybody at any time Sony can just swoop in and be like, no.
Yeah.
We're taking all that money. That's one of the downsides when you're doing a show. There are complications with IP role playing that definitely come up with licensing.
I just had one more thing to say on this, which is a recommendation. Okay.
Yes, please.
So sometimes when you're playing these games, it can be hard to figure out what space to carve out for your campaign or whatever. I highly recommend a book by Graham Walmsley called Stealing Cthulhu. The whole H.P. Lovecraft mythos, that's your first IP property, really. He had this big interconnected universe. So I apply this book to when I'm doing Tolkien, when I'm doing Dune or whatever, because what it does is it shows you how to like take stuff from the fiction and mix it around so that it's an original thing that still feels like the IP that you're working with. So,
but feels fresh.
It makes it fresh, but he's like, literally you have to, it's called Stealing Cthulhu because you literally steal things from the stories, or if you were working with Dune, from the novels or whatever, and then you mix them around, like you switch the location, like what if you did an Aliens campaign but set on Earth, or you start in Mordor and end in the Shire, like, or switch your timing, like what if you played Dune but you play it when the Harkonnens first land on Arrakis, like these are all the little tips he gives you for how to make it feel the same, but new. And I really recommend that book, Stealing Cthulhu by Graham Walmsley, if you're going to do any IP role-playing.
Yeah, I definitely want to do more of it at home for sure. It can be a challenge to do on the network as much as I'd like to, which is why I'm going to be playing, or at least I'm hoping to play a little bit of Alien in Vegas. In the Vegas retreat, I want to run some Alien for some Naish members because I love playing it and I don't like coming up against those licensing hangups. So anything that's off air is fair game. So with that in mind, let's talk about a scenario build here. I would love to poll you, Jared McD. Feel free to chime in if you'd like, and Twitch chat, Discord chat, guys, write in. I want to kind of build a little quick scenario here, and what we're going to kind of build is setting, kind of from the top down, large ideas down to kind of smaller ideas, and then maybe we can come up with a hook or something like that. We're not going to write the whole thing. Obviously, we're not going to have a bunch of NPCs, but just that sort of the basic concept that you could turn into a 2 to 4 hour one-shot experience with your friends. And this is obviously fair game for anybody. This is whatever we come up with here. Feel free to run it in your home games or expand on this idea and use it to run an Alien session at home. But yeah, in my mind, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I'm going to kick it off by going with almost like improv stuff where we kind of give a few choices, narrow it down, and then we just kind of pick some big, one of the callers said, I think it was Acting Gray, who was just on creating a scaffold that we're going to kind of build up and into to narrow as we go. So first, I want to say I've narrowed one thing down that I really want to focus on here, and that is I want to do a Colonial Marines story. I'm going to do Colonial Marines because from a homebrew perspective, McD and I have done space truckers, and we've also done colonists. We've never done a Colonial Marines one. So I just want to kind of narrow it down with that to start. So if you were going to run a one-shot of Colonial Marines campaign, Jared, I'll throw it to you first. Anybody chime in, vote as we go just by typing in chat. Would you large scale set it on a planet or in space? On a planet or in space? What would be your preference? Colonial Marines.
Personally, I'm thinking planet because I feel like Colonial Marines, they're a little limited if you're flying through space. You can't quite really open up with those guns as much, you know? You're gonna cause a complete pressure vacuum situation. So
Okay.
I see it happening on a planet. That's my druthers there.
I see a lot of space in chat. But I think there is a good bit of the aliens' story underneath the reactor when they have to pull their ammo. That is a fantastic story beat for a script you're writing. Not as good at a role-playing table, in my opinion. So,
I don't know if I agree. You know, you giving the characters a challenge like that is huge. And an Alien, it's not about destroying monsters. It's not about beating the monsters. It's about surviving. So I think putting a moment like that into a role-playing game, I think that's a great idea.
Well,
like
but
they can't fire.
But you're saying like that's why you don't want it to be in space.
Right. I mean, here's the thing.
Feels limiting.
If it is in space and you are going to do that moment, that's a key moment of your one shot, right?
Yeah.
So it needs to be designed partially around that. Like that's a big encounter. We're having an encounter with Colonial Marines where if they fire, it's going to be disastrous. Like, but it feels to me like if someone's playing Colonial Marines, especially for the first time, they're going to want to go full auto, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's. I agree with you. All right, let's just say we're going to do planet. Let's move on. Now, planet, we got a couple options here. I'm just going to narrow it down to 3: urban, remote outpost, subterranean. Urban, remote outpost, or subterranean. Do you have a preference there? If we are going to have to land on a planet at some point, what kind of setting do you think would be fun to set a one-shot scenario in?
I mean, so if you're going for a classic vibe, you're going to go like subterranean or remote outpost, right?
Correct.
But if you want something new, you're going to go urban, you know? But I don't think we've seen cities on other planets in Alien. That almost feels like Star Wars or Star Trek,
It feels
right?
maybe a little anti-alien because you're supposed to be kind of cut off. That's usually the idea. You're supposed to be kind of alone. The urban idea, now we could do a, long abandoned city.
Right, a deserted city.
Like
a city that's been taken over by the xenomorphs, yeah.
A large space, but that doesn't have any people in it. That could be kind of interesting.
You know what? I'm just all these ideas are percolating, but I don't want to get ahead of you. I don't want to get ahead of you. I maybe I'll save it. Maybe there'll be an opportunity for this thought. A city that's like been emptied out. That's really scary. That could be cool, and that could have the Alien vibe.
Okay, I like this idea. It is kind of new to the Alien, what we know of the Alien franchise. An urban setting, lots of buildings, lots of vehicles, lots of structures, but all in decay. Like a Last of Us meets Alien kind of
Imagine
thing.
it's got like old advertisements. Like this was a built up place, like imagine like walking through like abandoned Times Square in an Alien game, that's pretty cool.
Okay. That's pretty fun. Okay. Let's go into mission style. This is right out of the book. There's a lot more choices than this, but I narrowed it down to 5. I'm going to list these off, see if any of these jump out at you. And this could kind of go hand in hand with, I'm trying to think of the best order here. Maybe let's do primary threat first. There are 3 options I have for primary threat. First was the xenomorph. That's obvious. Second is a non-xenomorph monster. So, which they have, in the book. They have non-xenomorph aliens statted out. So is the xenomorph a non-xenomorph monster or human? Like whether it's corp, military, some sort of human conflict that comes up. Which would be your preference here? I always worry if you're trying to do something new in Alien, is it too far of a departure to make it like Andor, right? To make it factional like human versus having a monster.
If people are signing up to play the Alien role-playing game, they want to encounter a xenomorph. Now, that's not to say you can't do something where terrorists have hijacked an alien egg, right? You know what I mean? And then you're like versus people and you're trying to neutralize them before the face hugger gets out or something like that. Or you know what I mean? Like there's ways to do a people conflict that still involves the xenomorph in some way.
Okay, I'm going to put the xenomorph in because I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think we could do new takes on it, but we got to kind of go the xenomorph angle. Whatchamacallit? Slow-Eyed Joe in Discord chat says Chernobyl vibes seems cool. That's an interesting idea, right? Like, here's the added thing with that. If we do that, that would mean like we could get into a situation of needing a spacesuit, where you get into the cool alien mechanics of oxygen and exposure to the open air and stuff like that, which could be fun on a planet in a blasted out city where there might be residual radiation. That's kind of interesting. All right, so the xenomorph as the primary threat. Then we can go into mission style. Here we go. This is going to get us into our last thing, which is the hook, really. Primary mission style: recon, assault, search and rescue, bug hunt, classic, or sabotage. I don't know. Sabotage, I think, is a little bit more esoteric in this sense if you're not dealing with factional kind of stuff. But recon, you're just, an advanced scouting party. Assault, there is something that you are deliberately going into assault fight against. There is already set up defenses. Search and rescue, classic. Bug hunt, classic. And then sabotage. Jason C on Twitch just says sabotage right out. Interesting. I'm not sure what that hook would be, but
I like search and rescue because how cool is it to have to go into a city and find people or maybe even find like alien biology samples or something and get them out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then you could have like someone go needle in a haystack, Sarge, or something like that. You know what I mean? That feels like something that they would say. Yeah, I mean, going into a city,
you have to find people in alien what? Biologic.
Well, maybe instead of finding people to rescue, there was some sort of facility with alien biological samples, they want you to go in and get them out.
Yes, I always love the trope story of like you got to get in and you got to get out. It's not just destroy everything that's there and then you win and you stand at the flag victorious. It is interesting when it's like you got to get something, but then you also have to get out. Escaping to me is a classic alien
also a classic alien trope is you're working for bad people, and the idea that they're trying to save alien biological samples, right, and get them off of a destroyed planet, like, and where are they taking them and what are they going to do with them? Like, that's you're working for bad.
It's not
people.
your job to ask, Private.
Exactly.
It's not your concern. These are questions above your pay grade.
Yeah, and someone could play a scientist with the Marines, or someone could be the creep, or you could have an NPC who's the creep scientist who goes along with you.
This was one of my things. Any key NPCs.
Here's an NPC I would love to see.
Creepy
As
scientist.
an alien, I feel like the blue collar people are always good and the corp people are always bad. I would love to see an evil roughneck.
Okay.
Like, a guy that's like a piece of shit, but is like one of the very blue collar people. That doesn't really fit into the thing that you've set up here, though.
I mean, these are big structural elements. Nothing is necessarily impossible at this stage. What if the person that is surviving in this blasted out building where these samples are is, a roughneck? right? But and you have to rescue them, but they're a bad guy. Like, that's kind of interesting. And what if what if coming along with you is a corporate agent who is not a bad guy, who's like a good guy corporate agent? That would be turning.
Yeah, I mean,
we're stealing Cthulhu right there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, we're flipping it, right? We're flipping it. I mean, like the idea of like you have a scientist with you and you have to have them to get the biological sample, but the scientist is like a complete coward and has no military discipline and kind of holds you back, and you've got to save their ass over and over. Like, that's kind of a fun angle as well and feels very alien to me.
That's cool. That's cool. Whatchamacallit, who said it? Somebody said, Ukini-chan. What's up, Ukini-chan? Good to see you. Said you can totally do a loyalist roughneck. That is interesting. A loyal to the company.
Oh
roughneck.
yeah, that's a great angle on the evil roughneck. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is a great angle.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually when you write a scenario, you got to have a hook. You got to have something that just sort of like a one-liner, log line, like this is what the adventure is. Now, you can say retrieving alien biological samples from a blasted out city and escaping. That could be the hook. Is there one thing here though that what's the problem? Is it that it is that xenomorphs are around, or is there one other thing that's like typically it's something the players would know right away in the scenario. It's like the signal that they receive or something. How do they even know the samples are there? I don't know. Is there something here, or do we have to?
Well, what you're sometimes talking about with the hook is really your beginning. Right. And people like Graham Swalmsley in that book I just told you, or people like Sly Flourish in his books, The Lazy Dungeon Master, really recommend your first scene being like, whoa, holy shit. And we just saw Andor do that. We talked about that today, in the new season. So that's your hook, really. I thought of an incredible hook, but I don't think you could do it for this scenario, which is my hook that I wrote down was everybody wakes up and they're already impregnated by a face hugger. And that's how the one shot starts.
That's very cool. That's a good hook. That's a good hook.
You wake up, you're like, what happened to me? Ow, my mouth hurts. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, and you only have so many hours before you get chest burst. That doesn't quite work for your thing,
it doesn't not work. Like,
it doesn't not work.
So because the theory is this, right? And we got to go here in 1 second. One angle, and we got some GCN news I'm going to drop in a second. One angle is the Marines get the briefing. Chewing gum, smoking a cigarette. Is this another bug hunt? Right? And then you get drop ship onto the planet, recover this from the city and get out of there. Here's your mission, Marines. Be back here by 0800. Blah, 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 whatever. The other option is you start in medias res and you have the opening scene is four a colonial marine of a squad wake up in a research lab on a blasted out city, like coming out of it after getting face hugged, and their memory is all foggy. So they start to remember. Right. Wait, we were on a mission here. We had to save somebody and get them out of the city. We're supposed to, and then they can look through their whatever computer. Oh, right. It says we're supposed to meet here at this time. Whatever. That is interesting.
Or like we figure out there's a medical facility across the city and it has that thing from Prometheus that can give you a C-section. It's got that yes. C-section machine, and that's the only way to get this goddamn alien out of us.
That's interesting. Okay.
And we got to get across town to get the thing out of us.
And the players, can decide like, do they go and get the thing out of them, or do they just like get off planet first, you know what I mean, and not tell anybody that they know they're impregnated and find a way later to like get this thing taken care of once they're in a safe facility off the planet. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I have one thing.
Oh, McDermott.
Go ahead.
Yeah, McDermott, what do you got?
I've been taking notes.
Yes.
It'd be fun. You do this face hugger scenario. They're foggy, amnesic. It'd be a fun reveal to be like, the Marines are the bad guys. Like their mission was they were sent as like Pinkertons to like break a strike for the company.
Right.
It's like why they landed on, like Celeste or like some alien planet. And like things go bad, like you could like build it out from there. But I like the idea of like them ultimately they were like, oh shit. Like we were just following orders. Going here, trying to dismantle this union.
I love that. Yeah. We figure out that our mission was being evil. And then also I love like maybe they meet other Marines and the other Marines are like, our job was to come kill you because you're infected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe that was your job. Maybe your job was go in and clean up this, like anybody who was infected, like you just got to go and clean them up. And so as you're foggy coming out of it, you have these memories of just killing civilians. Interesting. Anyway, that's cool, McD. That's great. All right, cool. I jotted all these ideas down and we'll put this together maybe in a little homebrew we could run at some point. I don't know if probably won't be a show, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe in Vegas, maybe just for my own purposes at home. Before we get out the door here today, though, I wanted to drop some GCN news. I don't know how many of you have seen, but the Gen Con events have dropped, and I want to get you a quick update on where we're at currently with Gen Con events as some of our games have landed and been approved. So major games that are going to be at the con and ready to rock. We're going to do another Call of Cthulhu, 1920s Call of Cthulhu live. We're going to do another Get in the Trunk Live. Get in the Trunk Live is back. So excited for that. And we're going to do, this year, we're going to do a Marvel. We're going to do a Marvel show live at Gen Con. More superhero shenanigans with Marvel. That's one we never mentioned in the IP role-playing. We never mentioned Marvel.
I had it down here, but I forgot to say
I feel those mechanics are wonderful in supporting the feel of a Marvel game, of a Marvel, world. So yeah, first time ever at Gen Con live Marvel show. I believe first time ever. I don't think we did that last year. Marvel show. And then we are doing a Starfinder 2e, an official Starfinder 2e show live at the convention. Very, very excited for that. So if you're tossing around coming to Indy, please come out to Indy. Join us. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be amazing. And what else?
Vegas is happening.
Well, Vegas but we have our live shows that are at the Athenaeum this year. So previously we did Glass Cannon live and we did Call of Cthulhu live, Modern Cthulhu live at the Athenaeum, which was amazing. We are not doing Glass Cannon live at the oh my God,
the Comedy Club?
The Comedy Club this year. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name as I sit here trying to close out the show.
It's Helium, isn't it?
Helium, yes. It was at Helium Comedy Club. Unfortunately, love Helium, but we've outgrown it a little bit. So what we're going to do is do both shows in the Athenaeum back-to-back nights. So Thursday night, Glass Cannon live at the Athenaeum. Friday night, Modern Call of Cthulhu live at the Athenaeum. Got this whole deal set up with the Athenaeum. I'm very, very excited about it. It's an awesome, dinner theater style place with, great rising table sort of seating and stuff. It's awesome. And we're going to do both shows there this year. So Glass Cannon live at the Athenaeum, Modern Call of Cthulhu live, and we should be having the same cast. Ross is coming out, Nora's coming out, Rob Kirkovich is coming out, so we should be able to redo a new Modern Call of Cthulhu show, which was just wonderful last year. And then, of course, Gauntlets. Gauntlets you should be seeing, hopefully dropping soon as part of the Gen Con event structure. You can come and play live with us at our booth, doing live Gauntlets. Jared's going to run some. I'm running some. Everybody's chipping in to run a few Gauntlets where we put you in Pathfinder 2e up against some impossible odds. Overall, it's going to be pretty amazing. So I hope you guys join us. I hope you come out and get yourselves to Indy this year. If you're on the fence, definitely do it. We're going to have so many fun shows going on that'll be on sale and available soon. So just keep an eye out for that. As more news drops, we'll let you know. But for now, that's going to be it for us.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us, talking Star Wars, talking IP role-playing, talking Andor. Thanks to Skid. Thanks to Paula. Great calls today, and it was just a great hang. Thanks, buddy. It was great seeing you as always.
Great hang. Great seeing you, friend. See you soon.
We'll talk soon. Take it easy, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.